Hey guys, happy new year. So as you can see, we've made some changes in the Cosi Talks studio, and what a beautiful surprise to see so many of you on board ready to go this evening. So let's get this started right. Raise your mugs high, guys. Check out the coffee mug I got from my husband for Christmas. Yeah, he knows me. He knows me. God bless him. 20 years and counting, and we still love each other this much. So this is just awesome. So, anyways, guys, happy new year. Happy new year. Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin because honestly, there is so much to talk about tonight between all the updates, all the questions I have from you guys. I want to hear from you guys because I've missed you guys. I haven't seen you guys for like 2 weeks, and that's like a record for not broadcasting. So as you can see, we have a nice new studio, different look. Wanted to try something different, and oh boy, did I try something drastically different. I just have like the theme song of like Disco Inferno running in my head right now. And Elmo, like that Elmo gif with his hands are like on fire and he's just like, ah. So, we're going to have fun with this for a little bit. We might do some little tweaks here and there throughout the year, but I'm going to have some fun with this. So I'd love to know what you think. Please be kind. So for those of you who are new to watching the Cosi Talk show, you are jumping in at a crazy, awesome time. My name is Cosi Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I have been a PT for a little over 23 years, and my passion is working with the amputee and limb loss community. Guys, Cosi Talks is officially 8 years old, and I'm a terrible person when it comes to social media. January 4th was the official birthday of Cosi Talks and also of my private outpatient practice Palanca, which is exclusively for amputees. It's also the anniversary of the day that I started my battle against breast cancer with big surgeries and all sorts of fun like that. So lots and lots of anniversaries, but a happy one to be 8 years, guys, broadcasting. And some of you have been with me for all 8 years. So let me just start saying hello to everybody. Because again, I've got a million thoughts going through my head. And I just got to get things sorted out here. So we got Daniel coming in from YouTube, guys. I am broadcasting to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So find me. You can find me wherever. We got Scott coming in, warm for January in West Virginia. Scott, I can't wait to see you next week. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far you've come along since the last time I saw you at the Coalition Conference. We've got Mark on board. He says, Happy New Year with water tonight. Scott also chugging the water. We've got Crystal here coming in from Fort Worth, Texas. Crystal, I think it's your first time on the show, so I'm really happy to see you here this evening, darling. We got Kim on board from Indiana. We got a Hoosier girl over there, right there. We got Chuck coming in from Wyoming with iced tea. My holidays they were a lot of time spent with family. And that was also a beautiful time. So with the children, with my family, both sides of the family. So it's wonderful. We said we got Pokey Jamar coming in from Ohio. We got Rolo Hey, there's Earl coming in from California. We got Jim in Ohio coming on board as well. And Crystal is sipping a cold Coca-Cola. Crystal, that is one of the hazing effects of the Cosi Talk shows. You got to let us know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your mug or glass. So you're right in board with us. We got Bill on board from Arizona. Ice water in his jug. Just kidding. An ice cold Coors in my hand. That's a good drink to have on the Cosi Talk show right there, Bill. We got Emily coming in from Central PA with her Dubai chocolate mocha from Starbucks. You always have the most exotic drinks, Emily, and tonight you did not disappoint. Harsh coming in from Central VA, Virginia, coming in from Richmond. Let's see who else we go. Let's see. The hardball here handle says he knows that guy from Arizona. Lots of good news, Daniel. Lots of good news. Donna coming in, and I've got your question here for tonight, Donna. And let's see, we got Diver Dan coming in from Kansas City, Stephen Schreidel with Michigan, Sherry from Orlando, Susan coming in with Marshall. Oh, it's been a tough start. I know, darling. And I am sorry I won't be able to see you at the conference this year. And I hope you're doing okay. We will need to chat more later. Let's see, we got Tom coming in on board from Canada. You guys like the new set? I'm finally scrolling down to all those comments. You guys are amazing. Thank you for jumping on board. I think the new set is fun. It was one of those just like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. Let's have some fun with it. Where's Bob? Bob is here. He is here. Like I said, there's a few tweaks we'll be adding to the set in the coming weeks, and a couple things here and there, but Bob is never far behind. I can promise you that. Here's another cool thing. Guess what I get to have with my red set is I get to have my red phone, right? Yeah, dating myself now with this, but there's a story behind that phone and we'll save that one for later. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. Compadre, man, what you think, right? Hey, we got the set going on board. All right, we got Marianne on board saying it's warm in South Dakota. Guys, I'm glad it's warm because I was freezing my Florida tushy off up north this past couple of weeks. We're talking it was in the 20s. I was falling out of the trees. Forget about the iguanas. I was falling out of the tree. All right, we got John C. on board as well. Holy cow, there's a lot of you here, and I'm loving this. Comadre! All right, we got Pat coming in from Massachusetts. Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. We got Tina Lou from West Virginia. Tina Lou, I think this is the first time I've seen your name, so if this is your first time, welcome. And yes, I'm usually this cuckoo crazy. All right. So Emily is like jumping in with the questions. She's like, we're not messing around. You've been gone for 2 weeks. I need questions answered. Emily, we're going to get to that question in just a moment. Guys, where's Pickles the cat? Pickles is strutting around here somewhere. Poor Pickles had to go to the vet today, so he's not too happy with me. So I don't know. We'll see. But he's fascinated, as you can imagine, with the new set. So he's loving that. All right, guys, before we get started, I do have a huge favor to ask. Yeah, I'm going to ask some favors tonight, and you guys just gotta bear with me on this one. Before the Christmas holiday, we put out the end of year survey. This is a survey that I've put out for several years to you, the community, my viewers. In this survey, it's a 10-question survey. It takes literally less than 2 minutes to fill out. It is a survey that is comprised of questions that I want to know from you and questions that my sponsors want to know about. Guys, people take this survey seriously. My sponsors really take to heart the feedback that you give them on this survey, myself included. A lot of what you see on the show, guys, changes, whatever. It comes from the feedback of this survey. So this is not just one of those like, fill out another. No. We really take it to heart. And to sweeten the pot just a little bit, because you know I love me some giveaways, all the sponsors contributed something to a really nice swag bag giveaway. Now, some of you, I see Harsh says he's already done. Guys, if you've already completed it, thank you. I am posting the link now for those who have not had the chance. So I'm extending it just a little bit more because I know I put it kind of close to the Christmas holiday. So I want to make sure, okay, that everything is okay there. So guys, go ahead. And I realize my Instagram feed is not working right now. Tina Lou, oh, thank you so much. So guys, when you complete the survey, please make sure that you put your email address at the bottom, because that's the only way I'm going to know to contact you if you're the person chosen for the winner. Okay. I'm not going to spam. I'm not going to sell your information. None of that kind of crazy stuff. So please right click, don't click out of the show, right click and fill out that survey later. Today is Wednesday. I'm going to close the survey down on Friday. So please fill it out. Thank you. All right. If you guys already did it, awesome. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I actually really enjoy reading the survey because for me, I love to see what you guys really think about the show. Even the stuff that you're like, didn't like that particular topic, or, I don't like your new set. Hopefully you're not going to say that. But I do really appreciate and I enjoy reading the feedback that you guys have to say on the show. All right. Next order of business. Who is going to the Amputee Coalition Conference next week? Who's going to the National Amputee ACNC? Who's going next week? It's in Las Vegas. It starts next Tuesday. It'll actually be my first time in Vegas. So guys, those of you who are Vegas people, I understand there's two types of people in this world. There's like, woohoo, Vegas people. And then there's the people who are like, Okay, I've never been, so I don't know where I'm going to fall on the scale for that. But for those of you who are like, woohoo, Vegas people, let me know where should I go? Where should I go in Vegas if I happen to have any free time? Don't know if that's going to happen. But if you are going to Vegas, I want to meet you. Okay. I will be hanging out at the College Park booth. All right. That's where the party is going to be at. It's going to be at the College Park booth. I am wearing so many sequins the whole week that Liberace is going to be rolling in his grave. Not kidding right there. And seriously, guys, I really would like to meet you. And those of you who just want to come and meet me, great. If you want to ask me questions about your gait, about your prosthesis, come see me. It's like free physical therapy session almost. I can't say that legally. Allegedly free physical therapy session with me at the conference. And then not to mention at the College Park Industries booth, we have two experienced prosthetists. You guys have seen them on the show. John and Elise, I believe both of them are coming. Incredible prosthetists, right? So you can pick their brains too and get second opinions and just play with all the fun toys they have there. Now is your chance. All right. So Bill says Fremont Street. Jim in Ohio says I'm going. So guys, seriously, College Park booth, come find me there. That's where I'm going to be the whole time. All right, let's get started with some of these questions because we've got some big questions and a lot of education coming with these questions tonight. All right, let's go with, actually, you know what? Let's start off with Emily's question because I want to make sure I don't forget that. And then we're going to get to the ones that were submitted on the text. Emily says, are there any safe closed-toed shoes to wear with a superficial wound on the foot? I got my KFO last week, but my current shoes don't fit due to lymphedema swelling. I figure the swelling will go down if I'm wearing shoes to contain the swelling, but I also have a small surface wound on the top of my foot, so I don't want to cause any pressure issues. So Emily, you know me, when it comes to open skin, wounds, anything like that, especially on a foot that has compromised circulation, I'm going to say all bets are off, okay? You need to be absolutely careful and protecting that wound. It might be just something really small. We don't want it to get any bigger. Okay, we don't want it to get any bigger, especially if you're having issues with lymphedema. Now, that being said, in your case, and again, I want you, Emily, to check with your lymphedema specialist about this advice I'm going to give you. You may want to consider using your lymphedema wrapping to help move the edema out of your limb. Okay, so whatever compression garment, whatever wrapping technique that you have been taught by your lymphedema specialist, that will help with the wound. Why? Because we're going to help push the fluid out so to allow the circulation to get to that area. Okay, but again, you need to do this with the supervision of the lymphedema specialist because if you don't do it properly, it can backfire on you. There really is no shoe out there, and I'm sorry to say that, there really is no shoe out there that you'll be able to wear over that wound that is not going to somehow irritate or potentially irritate that wound more. Okay, so again, and I know this is a pain because it's cold out right now and to have not wear a shoe and to have to, okay, but you want that skin to heal. You want that skin to heal. You want to protect that area. Okay. So that's going to be, and again, talk to your lymphedema specialist to see about doing the proper compression garment to get that fluid out. If you just put the shoe on, it's just going to create kind of a tourniquet effect, okay? Because shoes are not meant to give a graduated compression, right? That's what your lymphedema wrappings, that's what your compression garments do. But if you just put the shoe on, it's not going to contain the fluid. I can see why you might think that. It certainly seems like it would, but it's just going to kind of create a tourniquet effect, and we don't want that, okay? All right. Let's see. Hey there, Denise coming in from North Carolina. Let's see. Benny says we have spring training in Lakeland, Florida. You're in my backyard, Benny, man. You are always all over the place. Robert is going to be there with Bubbles. I cannot wait to see Bubbles again. That's going to be fun. Let's see. Scott says I'm having my amputation left leg below the knee on Monday, January 12th. Can you address terror going in? Okay. And Scott, this is where I'm going to pull on my audience right now. So this is something where you're in the right place, I think, because you have a group of people here who have been there, done that, and gotten the t-shirt. I myself am not an amputee. I have my own, the way I can best relate to you, Scott, is my own history with breast cancer, where I had to do multiple surgeries that were quite terrifying having to go into it. And you're absolutely right. There is a sense of terror in having to go into some of these major surgeries, and amputation is certainly on the top of that list. Scott, it's a mixture of a lot of things, right? It's a mixture of, part of it is the mission of the show is educating, informing, and empowering yourself with this information, right? The more you start to learn about life with amputation, and I like to think that this show is a good resource for that, the more you can start to empower yourself for what is to come in the future. right? Uh, and as far as the emotional and spiritual side, we talk a lot about that on this show, that healing from something like a trauma like amputation or cancer or some other traumatic injury to the body, it is a three-step physical, emotional, and spiritual healing process. For me, the spirituality and my faith is certainly what carried me through the terrible parts and the anxiety-ridden parts. I also highly encourage you to seek help with mental health counseling. Okay. I say this a lot on the show. Amputation is not normal for the human body. Cancer is not normal for the human body, right? So, our human minds, how do we begin to grasp what is happening to us? Right? That's not what we were designed to be or to do, right? So, how can we expect to do that all on our own? Okay. So, I am a huge proponent of getting help, and that can be in so many different ways. It can be from a mental health counselor, trauma psychologists, especially in the hospitals, are absolutely wonderful, wonderful resources and wonderful human beings to talk to. Clergy, if you have a particular faith that you prescribe to, a lot of religious clergy are professionally trained as counselors. Okay. And they are a wonderful resource there as well. Peer support, right? Speaking with someone who has been there, done that. And I just saw your comment there, Mark. Hopefully gotten the t-shirt for it, right? Amputees have a lot of wonderful, funny t-shirts. But all joking aside, the Amputee Coalition Certified Peer Visitor Program. I'm going to type that into the comment section right now for you. Amputee Coalition Certified Visitor Program. And I do believe we have some of our listeners this evening that are certified peer visitors. So I want you to, Scott, to go and look up on Google Amputee Coalition Certified Peer Visitor Program. Okay. So the Amputee Coalition is the nonprofit organization meant to serve amputees here in the United States. And they have this wonderful program called CPV, the Certified Peer Visitor. And you can make a request to have one of their trained peer visitors come and visit you in the hospital. They will find someone who is close to you in your area who will come and see you in the hospital. And guys, this is the part where I want you speaking up in the comments sections to encourage Scott to do this. So many of you are either peer visitors yourselves, or you had experiences with the certified peer visitor in those first days after your amputation. And I know many of you had life-changing moments because of those visits from those folks there. So Scott, it is a multifaceted approach. For what it's worth, I will be praying for you during that time. And, please, we have this show here every night, every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Next week is the one exception because I'm going to be in Vegas at the conference, but I will be broadcasting from there. So you'll see me there. You are also welcome to email me your questions directly about amputation. Cosi at COSITALKS.com. And this goes for anybody who's listening in this evening. The whole point of this show is to serve you in the community, okay? And to help you find resources to hopefully answer your questions, or to find someone that can answer your questions. And I see a lot of comments coming in right here, and I really appreciate this, you guys. Let's see. Robert says he loves the new set. Thank you. Harsh says, Scott, stay strong with faith and patience. Daniel says, I am a double amputee below the knee, and I had prosthetics made 3 years ago. I walked on my knees for over a year, so my legs don't go straight, but I couldn't stand up for over a few minutes because of pain. Emily says, I figured I'd ask. Okay. Let's see. Mark says, I still haven't gotten the t-shirt. We got to send you one, Mark. We got to make some and send you one. Harsh says, always remember I am possible. Tom says, Scott, if you can request a peer visitor. Let's see. Kim says it's also best to see someone who is trained with trauma and grief. Yes. And this is definitely where trauma counselors, trauma psychologists, wonderful. And usually in places where they're having hospitals where they have amputations, they will have someone like this on staff. John says he completed the survey. Thank you very much, John. Trish says, yes, I second Cosi. Take care of your mental health. Emily says amputation was scary, especially since mine wasn't planned. Check out the Amputee Coalition and request a certified peer visitor. I wish I had known about it right after my amputation. Let's see. Robert says, where is Scott? Scott, if you feel comfortable letting us know what town you're located in. Perhaps folks here might have local resources available for you. There's also wonderful support groups, Scott. And again, one of the silver linings of COVID is that we started using Zoom technology a lot more, and that extended to support groups. So there's some folks that, don't exactly want to be in person at a support group, but are more comfortable doing so in a Zoom or virtual setting. So we have a lot more of those available right now. Scott says, this is one of the best things I've done, and me and my certified peer visitor still talk 6 years later. Bill says, my advice is to celebrate the accomplishments. Don't be hard on yourself, but push yourself. Let's see. And Scott's taking the class to become a CPV himself. And here's the cool thing about the certified peer visitor is it really is your peer. It is not I'm a specialist with over 23 years experience of amputee care, but even I understand I will never be able to relate to my patients as an amputee because I am not an amputee myself. And the certified peer visitor program, that's probably the tenet, the highest tenet of the whole program. And the concept there is you are speaking to someone who has been there, done that, right? Been through it. Let's see. Scott says he's in New Paltz in Hudson Valley, New York. So if we have any of our New Yorkers here this evening who would like to share any resources with Scott, that would be amazing. Crystal says, being in amputee support groups has been my biggest help throughout my journey. Donna says, just stay strong and it will all be okay. I lost my leg 4 years ago. Robert says, I truly believe amputation recovery is 80% mental and 20% physical. Yeah. Yeah. Pam says, hi from Indy. Hoosiers. Pam, I have your question here and I have a lot of information for you tonight. So darling, take out your pen and paper. We are going to get to work and start with this information. Scott, again, if you want to just sit back and listen to what folks have to say, or if you want to jump in and ask any questions, please feel free. And this goes for anybody who's new watching the show. Denise says, Scott, know that there is life amputation after amputation, full life. Susan says, I've made impact as a CP. Susan, you make an impact no matter where you go. You're just an incredible human being as a CPV, as a human being, as an Integrum ambassador. Incredible, incredible. And guys, one of the, Denise, what Denise says, there's life after amputation. I go, life will never be the same, right? Life will never be the same after amputation, after cancer, but it doesn't mean that it won't be good. Doesn't mean that it won't be good and that it won't be amazing. Let me rephrase it. It won't be amazing, right? Kim says, I've typed up a whole 1-page list of Zoom amputee groups. I attend some weekly and some once a week. Really helpful. Kim, that's absolutely wonderful. Is there a way that you would like to post in the comment section how people can get that list? I think that's incredibly valuable. If you wouldn't mind emailing that to me, that'd be wonderful too. Earl says, for me, the surgeon had another AK patient come visit the next day and it was huge for me. Yeah. Yeah. And guys, for me and my own breast cancer journey, it was a mixture of meeting with a priest. I'm a Catholic, and there was a priest that I trusted very much, and he was a former physical therapist before he became a priest. So I knew he had that clinical knowledge, and he also had counseling training, and he was a wonderful resource for me. And then another wonderful resource for me were other women who had been through breast cancer. Some of them had a more severe form of cancer than I did, and others had a less severe form of cancer than I did. And I still keep in touch with many of these women today. And again, it's a lifelong healing process. It's a lifelong healing process. And I promise you, Scott, it gets better. It does get better. All right. All right. Let's move on to Pop 19's question. Pop asks, does every new socket require a casting? What is the best practice for new sockets? I am 27 months into this journey. Is the shrinker still a nightly necessity? Thank you for the therapy and bringing stability to all of us out there. Long Island flavored water with an accent for sure. All right, Pop 19, I always enjoy reading your messages. So not every new socket requires a new casting. And here's why. Sometimes folks will have a cast they will have the same socket forever and ever and ever because they're very stable. Their limb is very stable in volume. They take good care of their limb. They take good care of their overall health. So they're able to keep using that same socket. But sometimes those sockets after years and years and years can tend to wear down or they just outright break in those cases. So in cases like that, the prosthetist can make a clinical decision to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and pull out the old mold for the socket that had worked so well. And let's just see if it needs modification and keep going with it. Oftentimes, more often than not, what I find is the reason why a person needs a new socket is because the old socket isn't working anymore, right? So either because the person is shrinking, or there's new bony prominences, or there was just something not great with the original socket. So in that case, a new socket needs to be made. Oftentimes in my earlier years, I would ask, well, why can't you just modify the old socket? And I'd see the prosthetist shaking his head going, it's too complicated. It's so much more accurate just to make a new socket in a lot of cases. Now, when it comes to the different methods, boy, that certainly has changed a lot since when I started practicing over 23 years ago. Back then it was all about the hand casting. And to me, it's still kind of one of my favorite methods. It's old school, but I think I just like a good hand casted socket. That's just me, personal preference. I have seen some amazing sockets using technology. So we have the digital scanning, we have the 3D printing, we have all sorts of technology out there that help capture the limb to create the new socket. And now we have these adjustable sockets that can be made in less than 2 hours. I think one of the companies out there is bragging about that kind of a socket. All right, lots of stuff going on. For me, it goes back to, what is the skill of the prosthetist? Okay, that is the most important part, because it's the skill of the prosthetist that's really going to determine if that socket is made well or not made well. Okay, end of the day, regardless of what technique that they use. So that's kind of what I go with on that. All right, let's see what we got going on. Earl said, let's see, Glenn. Hey, Glenn, man, good to see you, Glenn. I am putting you to work, son. I got stuff for you to do at that conference. I'm putting you to work, just so you know. See, we got a whole, I'm pulling over my box of goodies here for this next question, because I'm trying to find, see guys, in some parts, I don't have all my stuff, but I do have some of my toys here, and I'm still setting up different parts. Here we go. This is kind of what I wanted. Okay, so this goes to the next question that we're going to see. Okay, Donna says, why is it important to wear your liner if you don't know when you're getting your leg? And does it hurt to wear it like every other day? I've been without a leg for 4 years because the doctor who cut off my leg said the prosthetic would kill me. Have you ever heard that? That's a very drastic comment. And I have to say, I was kind of scratching my head when I first read that comment. I was like, what? And I would love to know some clarification as to why the doctor would say that. I honestly was racking my brains, and I cannot think of a reason as to why wearing a prosthetic leg would ever potentially threaten your life, unless the prosthetic leg was made out of some crazy wacko material like what's sitting behind me. I don't know. So I have no idea what was going through that doctor's head when they said that to you. I really would love to know. I've heard some wacky things. And from some of the doctors at times. Okay. But Donna, so when it comes to the liner, and I think you mixed up the liner with the shrinker, which brings me to my next point, is explaining the difference between the liner and the shrinker. And that's why I was digging around in here. Unfortunately, I cannot find my shrinker. Okay. We're going to improvise here. All right. So there is a liner and then there is a shrinker. Two separate things for two separate purposes. Okay. Let's start with the shrinker. Unfortunately, I don't have my shrinker with me. I cannot find it in my bag of goodies, but the shrinker is a compression garment. Okay. Now it's something that we see very widely used nowadays. It has kind of replaced the old school method of using an ACE wrap. When do we use a shrinker? Typically, a shrinker is issued after the wound has closed. So anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how your wound is healing after amputation. If you're a fast healer, it might be a little bit sooner. Okay. The point is, we don't want to start using a shrinker. Do not want to start using a shrinker until after the wound is completely closed. Okay. And this is something I teach in my therapy course for PTs, and it's something I teach the new students. Okay. The reason is these shrinkers, they're pretty heavy duty compression garments. Okay. So when you're pulling one on, if that wound has not completely healed, it's going to open up again. And I have some really dramatic pictures that I am not going to show right now that demonstrate what happens when we put a shrinker on top of a wound that is still healing. Not good. Okay. Some clinicians will say, yes, you can put the shrinker on when the wound is still healing. I'm one of those that says no go. Okay. before the wound is done healing, usually you want to use something like a 2B grip sock. Okay. So once your wound is healed and you start using that shrinker, it's going to do exactly that. It's going to shrink your residual limb. It's going to push the swelling out of that residual limb, and it's going to help to start molding the soft tissues that are there into the shape for the prosthetic use. Okay. So that's what it's going to be doing there. Okay. Now, the question a lot of people ask is, do I need to continue using the shrinker, and for how long? I'm a big proponent of saying, yes, continue to use your shrinker. Okay. Once you start wearing your prosthesis, right, you're going to notice that the limb shrinks a lot more dramatically. And then when you take your prosthesis off, it puffs up again. We call that rebound swelling. Okay. So that's where continuing to use the shrinker is very helpful, especially at night, because that's when our limb kind of tends to puff up again. Right. Okay. So for that first 2 years after your amputation, where your limb is kind of like going woo, up and down, it swells and then it gets shrinking and then it swells and then it shrinks again. Having the shrinker helps to stabilize that over the course of time. Now, after those 2 years, after your limb is kind of stable, some people don't need to use the shrinker at night. They don't. They're using their prosthesis all day long. They go to bed at night. They wake up in the morning and they put their leg on and no problem. They have a very, very stable limb. Okay. A lot of people, the majority of people that I encounter, right, even after those first 2 years, they need to use the shrinker at night because it helps stabilize the limb, right? Our bodies change from morning to night, right? This morning, I could not fit this ring on this finger. I had to wear it on my ring finger. But now, because my fingers have shrunk throughout the day, I can wear it on my middle finger, right? So that's how the rest of our bodies operate. So if you're someone that you notice that in the morning when you wake up, you got a hard time getting into that socket because your limb is a little puffy, you are someone who should probably use your shrinker at nighttime. Okay. Now, the shrinker, and I always like to really stress this, the shrinker is not meant to be worn with the socket. No. And I can understand where that might be, well, like it seems like it would make sense because it kind of looks like a sock. It looks like a stretchy sock. No. Okay, the shrinker is not meant to be worn with the prosthesis. And I know that my veteran amputees are just like, yeah, Cosi, we know this. Okay, so this is for my newer amputees, right? And it happens. I smile because it happens and it makes sense, but no. Okay, what you use when you wear your socket is called the liner, which is what this is. Okay, now this one feels like a silicone. This one feels like a silicone liner. Okay, this is what goes directly on your skin when you are wearing your prosthesis. When you are wearing your prosthesis. And the whole point of this, okay, is to provide total contact with the skin to give that skin protection as you put on the socket and the rest of the prosthesis. Okay. This does not have graded compression. It does not. Some of the models out there, they might say, oh, we give a little compression here, we give a little compression there, and they may have some compression component into it, but the purpose of the liner is not to provide compression. That's not it. Because some people will say, well, can I just wear my liner instead of my shrinker? No, it's not going to give you that same graded compression. Is that making sense, guys? Okay. So Donna, in your case, if you're waiting for that leg, for that prosthesis to be made, your case right now is you should be wearing your shrinker. Because again, it keeps that limb stable, it keeps the fluid, excess fluid out of the leg, and it helps keep the shape of the soft tissue. Okay. Once you start wearing your prosthesis, then what I typically tell patients in those new phase of wearing a prosthesis is whenever the prosthesis is off, the shrinker should be on. Okay. All right. I know that was like a really long explanation, but I'm like, I know we have a lot of new folks on here, and it's easy to see why the liner and the shrinker could get mixed up. And I really need to find my shrinker so I can actually show it to you guys. I hate it when that happens. All right. Let's see. Glenn says, bring it on. All right. John Jones, prosthetics is an art. Absolutely. It really is. It really is. I've seen, I think of myself, I joke around because guys, I have my own practice, right? but I don't actually have my own clinic. I work out of prosthetist clinics and I'm like a gypsy. I have like my entire clinic fits in a bag. So as you can imagine, I don't have a lot of high technology. I have like a tennis ball and some duct tape and some chicken wire, and that's what I use with my patients. But my patients do a pretty good job, right? I'm not against technology, not at all. And there's some days where I look at my colleagues who have all the fun bells and whistles at their fancy clinics, and I go, gosh, it'd be fun to use some of that fun toys and work with that. But, I do pretty good with my patients and my patients do pretty well. And it's kind of the same thing with prosthetists. There are some prosthetists that have very simple old school methods of building a socket and they do a beautiful job and they do a beautiful job. Again, I am so not against technology and all the advances of technology. And I think it's important to try different ideas and different things. But again, it relies more to me on the skill of the skill of the prosthetist and their understanding of how to manage soft tissues. Like that, their understanding of biomechanics and how to really manipulate those soft tissues right there, hands down. Hey, Ben Gregory's lurking around here somewhere. We got Christy coming in from Nebraska. Ben Gregory, I'm going to see you in Vegas, right? I hope so. Johnny V from Poughkeepsie, New York, and the Cosi Talks house, making a bang in New Year's Eve on New Year's. Let's see. Robert Jones says the chickens got the shrinker. What? I think I missed that comment. Let's see. Daniel says, I had a man come up to me who lost both legs like me and said he couldn't walk for 6 years like me. And he got computer chip prosthetics and now walks and swims. Yeah. And you hear these stories all the time. It's pretty incredible. Donna says, initially the doctor told me because I had peripheral arterial disease and because the relative shortness of my residual limb, I wouldn't be able to have one because the PAD could cause a heart attack. Okay. I'm not going to go against that, Donna. Okay. So again, I'm playing Monday morning quarterback with that. I've also had some doctors say that they wanted me to get an amputee patient up and walking, but that we couldn't use the prosthesis because that was going to cause too much cardiac stress on the patient. And I'm looking at the surgeon going, you do realize that in order for a one-legged person to walk without a prosthesis, they have to use crutches or a walker, which means they will be transmitting a lot of forces through their upper extremities near that heart area. Yeah, that's going to cause a lot more stress than trying to use a prosthesis, right? Again, so I would run into some of those cases at times, but again, Donna, it's one of those where you got to kind of be there with the person just to kind of have that discussion in person. Right. So Donna, have they cleared you now for using a prosthesis? Has that changed now? I'm curious to know. Robert says, bandages and ace wraps until the stitches are out. And then I was allowed the shrinker was my process. Yes. And that's the standard process. That is the standard process. So bandages, Tubi grip is my personal favorite. And again, I think I finished my stash. I love Tubi grip for right after surgery because it compresses. It gives a really nice, gentle compression. You can adjust the level of compression. It's not going to mess around and it's easy to put on and off. So you're not like shearing on that wound, fresh wound right there. So I love me a good Tubi grip. Let's see. Do I have an example of a Tubi grip sock? No, Van Gregory, and you just read my mind. I'm actually going to write that down and just have a sample of it. I have my goodie box right here. I need to kind of just update the goodies in the goodie box. Emily says, I still wear my shrinker. Yep. Robert says, you can wear a silver sock under your liner. It works great, but okay. And we're going to get to that. Actually, Robert, we're going to kind of segue into that one because it does relate to a question that's here for tonight. Let's see. Harsh says it's more art with science of human mechanics to understand stress and strains of the body parts. Yeah, guys, I've been studying the human body for over 30 years. I've been studying the human gait cycle for over 30 years. And there's times where I'm just like scratching my head going, okay, that's something new I just learned, right? And just the physics and the biomechanics of the human body, right? And it's interesting. I have four children. And my second daughter, she's getting ready to graduate high school, and she's actually interested in aeronautical space and engineering. And she has a mind for physics. And it's kind of cool to see that. And she and I have some great discussions. And I tell her, you know what? I like to claim that you got that from me because physical therapy really is the physics of the human body, right? Between the biomechanics, engineering, everything that goes into it. It's really kind of cool. Really kind of cool. And I'm waving my nerd flag right now, big time. Okay. Harsh says that's why it's called prosthetic engineering with correct understanding of physiology and human anatomy. Ben Gregory says, going to Vegas. Oh, yeah. You know where the party's at, Van Gregory? College Park booth, all the way, right there. Happy New Year, Robin. Happy New Year. We need to catch up. Donna says, the doctor that told me that is no longer a doctor, but the other doctor said it was okay. Now, Donna, it did trigger something in my brain. The only time, I mean, there are cases where wearing the prosthesis is not indicated. That's different from the prosthesis not being allowed to wear one, right? So one of the cases I can think of right away where wearing a prosthesis you might want to hold off on is someone who has a history of blood clots specifically behind the knee and they are below the knee amputee, right? So if they have any active blood clots and they're not being properly coagulated, meaning they're not on anticoagulation medication and they're not at therapeutic levels, that is an instance where you want to hold off on wearing the prosthesis because, yeah, we don't want to cause any danger from that. But again, that's just one of those like extreme cases kind of there. Let's see. Bill says, I've been wearing a shrinker for years. I love how they feel after a long day of being in my legs. Yeah. And a lot of people will tell me, like, especially at nighttime, if they have a lot of soft tissue at the end of their residual limb, that they like the feeling of a shrinker because it just gives them that comfortable compression. Daniel says, don't walk on knees like I did, or your legs won't be straight. I wish someone would have told me. I know, Daniel. Let's see. Benny says, I still wear my shrinker. All right, let's go to the next question. And this one was from Pastor Dave. Let's see. It was on here just a minute ago. Please hold, please hold, please hold. I somehow misplaced that question. Okay, so I know when Pastor Dave was asking the question, he was saying that he has a lot of problems with sweat. He's an above the knee amputee, that he's lost weight, but that the shape of his limb is still the same. So it hasn't shrunk, even though he's lost considerable amount of weight, and struggling heavily with sweat. And that he has tried several different forms of suspension with vacuum suspension and also with suction. And then suction with elevated suspension. And it still has not worked. And he's had some issues where he's been in the grocery store and he starts to sweat and the leg starts to come off. And I know that's a huge problem among amputees. Sweat, sweat, sweat. We have a small reprieve from the hot humidity here in Florida, but now we're experiencing cold humidity. So sweat is a problem for us year round here in Tampa, Florida. Okay, so what are you to do? Okay, now Pastor Dave's been on the show long enough, so he's done all the conservative things that I usually recommend, including using antiperspirant, taking off the limb throughout the day. He's a very experienced amputee, so I know he's tried all the conservative measures. So this is the part where I say, okay, now it's time to look outside and just kind of think outside the box a little bit. Someone mentioned earlier a product called the liner. Okay, now I have not worked with a liner. I am not super familiar with the product. I know baseline that it is like a silver, it's a very thin liner that's meant to go on the skin, and it's impregnated with silver to help with antibacterial and to help with sweat. Okay, I have mixed emotions about the liner. Okay, half of the people I've spoken to say it has caused them more problems because when you wear the liner, okay, it's meant to be in full contact with your skin, right? And the whole point is it's supposed to be fitting snugly and no friction, no shearing forces. Now, if you put something in here, okay, then you're compromising that total contact of your skin with the liner, okay? And that can cause friction, right? So again, half the people that I've heard use the liner, and this is just me listening to all the scuttlebutt out there, they say that it actually causes them more problems. Other people will say that it was a game changer for them. Okay. Yes. And Bill is talking about the liquid to powder lotion, the Vital Fit skincare line. Love it. We're going to be talking a lot about it this year on the show. They have a wonderful liquid to powder lotion that does help with sweat, right? However, there are certain cases, and I think this particular case, and again, usually guys, when I have folks on a good skincare regimen, we can get the sweat under control, but there are certain cases where it just isn't. The person like just has a lot of sweat production. I am one of those people to say that, right? Let's see. Mark says, I have mixed results with the silver sock and ultimately have ditched it. Yeah. There are some people who said it was a game changer. Some people who said, no, it actually caused more issues. So I'm bringing that up only because it was mentioned earlier in the show. Okay. So for someone who has excessive sweat, this is where I'm like, okay, it's time to think outside the box. One of the first things that I think about is Botox. Okay. I know that a couple of you on here on the show, you actually get Botox on a semi-regular basis, maybe once or twice a year on your residual limb to help with sweat production. Okay. The byproduct is your limb looks 10 years younger. All right, bad joke. Sorry. Okay. But for me, I think that's actually a viable consideration is to say, okay, let's go talk to a dermatologist. And that's something I do recommend. None of these med spas, like go see a dermatologist or go see a plastic surgeon, a certified plastic surgeon. They are the ones who can really counsel you whether or not Botox would be a safe option for you to try. Let's see. Kim says, doctor can prescribe a prescription for a pill that helps heavy sweaters. Okay. And again, I'm not familiar with that particular medication, but that's something I would have to look up right there. Okay. So, Botox is an option. Okay. Another option. And again, this is something, and again, there was one thing about socket modification. Okay. So one thing that the person had not tried, so he's already tried the suction suspension. He's already tried suction suspension with vacuum, elevated vacuum, which is pretty heavy duty. Another option, and it's not usually the more popular one, but I like to throw it out there anyway, is a hip belt. Okay. So again, especially for my AKs that have very short limbs that are difficult with suspension or heavy sweaters, when you put on the neoprene belt around the hip, that can really provide that extra suspension. Okay. I will tell you, it's not as comfortable. It is very hot. It can be very cumbersome. But again, I just always like to say that as an option. I know some of my AK runners out there will use the belt while they're running to have that extra security. Okay, so again, it's an option. All right, and we have Denise here who says, I love the liner. My prosthetist orders me the shortest one, so the liner is in contact with the skin is not an issue. I started using it because I just didn't like the feel of the liner on my skin. That's not an issue now, but I still wear it every day. I don't have excessive sweating, but the liner sock is absorbent. I tried the liquid to powder, but didn't like it, and everyone is different. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this is where I always say when I talk about the liner, I'll say, guys, it's 50-50. I hear some people who say they didn't like it, and other people are like, it was a game changer, right? My point is, if you decide to use the liner, I personally, I don't think I've ever really recommended it to any of my patients, honestly. If you decide that you want to try it out, again, please be careful with it. Please watch your skin carefully and have your prosthetist keep an eye on you while you're using it. Okay. Because we want to protect that skin as much as possible. Marianne says, my prosthetist gave me a distal cup to wear under my sleeve. I have a prominent bone and that fixed it. Tom says, I have Botox injections every 4 months, makes all the difference in the world. And then Mark goes to my next point. He says, why not osseointegration? Yes. And again, there are stages, right? When it comes to sweat, I tend to start with the very conservative and then kind of work my way down the ladder of the conservative methods. Most of my patients, we can get them under tolerable sweat control, okay, where they can live with whatever sweat they produce most of the time, okay? But there is like a 10 to 20% of patients that the conservative methods, they're not working. So we look at something like Botox. Osseointegration is another option, okay? And you guys have heard me talk a lot about osseointegration on the show. You're going to hear me talking about it a lot more this next year on the show as well, okay? And again, actually, this is one of the things I do have. Okay, here's the example of it. Okay, and one of the indications that someone may be a potential candidate for osseointegration is someone who experiences hyperhidrosis, excessive sweating. Okay, because yeah, in the case of this particular individual who emailed me, it's impacting his daily life and he's really having a difficult time with functioning. So again, it could be something that could be considered. Nowadays, we have so much more information, so many resources, so many amazing surgical teams for osseointegration than what we had even just 5 years ago, where this is a recommendation that I feel comfortable making now because I know I have credible resources to send people to see if they're potential candidates. Okay. Let's see. Matthew, holy smokes, man. It has been a minute. And he comes in blazing with drinking his black cherry soda and water. It does sound like a very good mix. So Matthew, it's good to see you. Matthew's one of my OG viewers. Matthew, it's been 8 years. I just celebrated 8 years of the Cosi Talk show. How do you like that? Oh, and just like that, like an amateur, I forgot to plug in my computer. You would think after 8 years, I would know to plug in my computer for a show. All right. Diver Dan says, I use the lanyard system. My leg has never slipped at all. Yeah. And some people like to use the lanyard. Some people like to use the pin lock. Other people, it pulls too much on them and they don't like that. Guys, if there's one thing you hear me say on the show is there's no one solution for every person. And part of what I like to do on this show is at least present you with as many different options as possible so that you can explore all those different options. Matthew says, how are you? Start the prosthetic process for the left side tomorrow. I can't wait to walk again. Matthew, it's good to hear from you, man. Stacy says, antiperspirant made me overheat. Oprah was what worked for me. Yeah. And guys, it's funny. I used to recommend antiperspirant all the time in my early years as a PT because that's all we had. That's really all we had. And yeah, there are some cases where, like, for example, with my runners, that antiperspirant, it helps in a pinch when you're running, but you got to put it on the night before. You got to let it soak in, and some people find it very effective. Some people not so much. Like I said, love the Vital Fit skincare line. It's a great balancing line. I think it does a great job of balancing the skin and giving it good health and helping with managed sweat over the long run. And I think it's a wonderful tool. Some people, it's just not enough. It's just not enough, right? So it's nice to have these other options now available to us. All right, Sherry said, she's saying hi to Matthew. And we got Beth on board. Man, we got a lot of my old viewers on board. Not old viewers, but viewers who have been with me for a long time. See, and Matthew's someone else. He likes the liners. All right, let's see. 8 years anniversary on January 31st. Holy cow, Matthew, on the right side. Holy cow. All right, let's move on to this next question. This one's a big one. I probably should have started off with this one because this is a big question. Pam says, I just found out I have osteoporosis with a stress fracture to my AK side hip. What do they do for amputees needing total hip replacements? What is the recovery for screws and plate repair versus a total hip replacement? And what do I need to know as far as rehab? I am very overwhelmed. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm going to try to just kind of be concise and not go off on too many of my Cosi tangents or soapboxes here. Okay, a lot of it when it comes to, and here's our nice little femur. Isn't that pretty? Thank you, Integrum, for giving me this beautiful femur. Okay. So a lot when it comes to the management of hip fractures will depend on where the hip fracture is. Okay. So you have the femoral head. That's that nice big juicy looking ball right there. And you have the greater trochanter, right? And in between that little groove right there and right here is the femoral neck. It makes sense, right? Like if the femoral head, and it's sitting on top of a neck. Okay. A lot of our osteoporosis fractures occur here. Okay. Now I'm going to get a little bit nerdy here, so just stay with me, right? If the fracture occurs here, and Pam, I believe when you sent me the details, that's where your fracture is right here. It's on the medial side. It's a compression fracture. Has a little bit of a better prognosis. Okay, so that's already good news for you right there. Now, a lot will be determined by where the fracture is and if it's considered a stable or unstable fracture. And let's dig into that a little bit more. Two big places for fractures are the femoral neck right here. It can either occur here or down here on the femoral neck, okay? And that's considered to be intracapsular. I know I'm throwing a lot of anatomy at you guys, so just hang there with me, right? We've got that nice joint capsule that covers the joint like this, okay? So it's inside the capsule, so right there, versus extracapsular, which can occur anywhere around here. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Anywhere around here. Okay. So in the case, and a lot of times with our osteoporosis fractures, a lot of times they will occur here on the femoral neck. If the fracture is stable, okay, meaning it hasn't like collapsed and it's just like a stress fracture, right? It's stable. Sometimes the surgeon will opt to put the plates and the screws in, and that's called internal fixation. They're going internal and they're fixating that fracture and stabilizing it that way. Okay. If the fracture is not stable, okay, then there's a risk to the femoral head. So if the fracture is not stable, there is a risk that this is going to lose blood supply, and that is no bueno. No bueno. Now, when you have something like osteoporosis where the quality of the bone is compromised, right? It means it's not as juicy, it's not as good quality bone. So they want to make sure that the femoral head has good circulation. All right. So, depending on what the surgeon sees, if the fracture is stable, okay, how is the femoral head doing? Those are things that the surgeon's going to consider. Other thing that the surgeon's going to consider is on an above the knee amputee, right? This area is undergoing a lot of stress when it's walking with a socket. Okay. So sometimes surgeons will lean more towards doing a total hip replacement because they want to give that hip joint as much durability for as long as possible. Okay. So there's a lot of different avenues that this can go. Okay. The most extreme case being a total hip replacement. The most conservative method would be to put screws in and wait and see if it heals. Okay. So again, depending on what your surgeon is seeing, depending on the quality of the bone, depending on your activity level, all of these things are going to be put into play as to what your plan of care is. So let's talk about the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, and I don't even consider it to be worst case, it's just the more invasive scenario, is that they have to do a total hip replacement. Okay. Chances are, if they do the total hip replacement, they'll probably put in a nice cemented one and give it a good, strong stability and durability there. Okay. So, things to take into consideration when you are having a total hip replacement is yes, the rehab process is going to be extremely important for any hip replacement, but especially if you have an amputated side. Okay. You're going to really have to work closely with that physical therapist to make sure you do all those strengthening protocols, to make sure that after you finish healing and you're back to wearing your prosthesis, that your prosthesis is fitting perfectly. Okay. Working with your prosthetist, working with your physical therapist to make sure that those forces are being transmitted appropriately. Okay. If it sounds like a lot of work, it is a lot of work, but is it doable? Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is again, having your team with you is absolutely key to your successful outcome. Okay. And this will go whether you have a total hip replacement or whether they decide to pin it, whatever the case may be. Okay. You really need to make best buddies with that physical therapist and the prosthetist. Okay. And the other side of it is making sure that your other side is also being well taken care of. And you hear me talk about that all the time on the show about protecting the sound side. Okay. As it is when you have an amputation, your sound side is going to take more stress and more of the abuse, and that can lead to chronic problems. Okay. So continuing to work on your strengthening, continuing to work on your balance, your flexibility, keeping those joints healthy all around is going to extend into your long-term outcomes. Does that make sense, guys? I know I just threw a lot of anatomy and gobbledygook at you. I was trying not to get too nerdy, but it's me. I'm going to get nerdy, right? Let's see. All right. So guys, give me a heads up. Is that cool? Everything I was saying so far? I know there's actually quite a few of you who have had hip replacements, and some of you have had knee replacements on the amputated side, on the other side. And again, there are considerations, with each version of it. Okay. So again, Pam, the key point here is get that relationship going with the physical therapist. And again, this is where definitely working with the physical therapist who has amputee experience will be important, because that physical therapist will need to be working with the prosthetist so that when you go back into the prosthesis, they're keeping an eye on your gait mechanics and the socket fit and making sure everything is done well, okay, to protect that side. And then strengthening, 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 okay? Robert, you are so not dumb. You are so not dumb. I'm actually going to put this up here, guys, okay? I do have some wonderful news, and actually this kind of segues into my wonderful news. So a few years ago, actually it's been four years. Holy cow, it's been 4 years. I launched the Cosi Talks Strong Body Program. So it has over 150 exercises for above the knee and below the knee amputees. It's 150 videos, okay? It's over 150 videos, okay? It goes arms, legs, core strengthening, balance, and flexibility. It takes you from the day after your amputation all the way through running. So those of you who have used my program and you see the patient, the amputee models on there, those are some of my runners that I've taught how to run using this program. It is truly a lifelong fitness program. Okay. And there are 2 books, an above the knee book and a below the knee book. Many of you have it. And right now I'm going to go get one because I can show you guys what it looks like. All right, here we go. Here is the below the knee book, color exercises, full color, full print. Okay. This is the kind of book that will take you through all of these different exercises for hip replacements, knee replacements. These are the exercises that physical therapists prescribe to patients. Okay. These are the ones that I prescribe to my own patients. If you haven't had the chance, guys, click on that link. I'll post it again. Take a look. Okay. I might be bringing some of these books with me to the conference. Yes. Okay. It depends on if I am able to bring them in the suitcase because they do weigh a lot, but I will try to bring some of these books to the conference. But in the meantime, it's something that you guys can order right off the website right there, subscription to the videos or the books themselves. Many of you have taken these books and this program to your physical therapists who don't necessarily have amputee experience. And any licensed physical therapist will open this book and go, got it. Now I know what we need to do with you as an amputee. Okay. But when it comes to your overall fitness, and again, I don't care if you use my program, I don't care if you whatever you use, but using a fitness program, okay, this is a lifelong thing as an amputee, as a human being, right? Because you got to take care of it, but more so as an amputee. So Pam, for someone like you, again, work with that physical therapist, work with that prosthetist, and you will have a good outcome. Okay, you will have a good outcome. All right. I will try to save you one there, Robert. Thank you guys. And thank you guys for the kind comments right there. I really do appreciate it. I do have one more housekeeping thing, guys. And again, I mentioned this earlier. My end of year survey, I'm keeping it open until Friday. There's a giveaway associated with it. These are questions on this survey that my sponsors contributed, that I have contributed, and we really take to heart all the feedback that you guys can present on this survey. So we also have a giveaway. So make sure you put your email in the survey after you're done completing it. And we're keeping it open until Friday. So if you haven't already done so, please fill it out. No, Matthew, yes, if you go to my Cosi Talks website, you will find a link to the Strong Body website because I have them linked, but this is on its own website. It's on its own website. But yeah, if you want to go to the Cosi Talks website, which might be easier, what is my COSITALKS.com. Oh, Kim says, consider UPS or FedEx books to hotel so the books are there when you get there. That's actually not a bad idea. I'm just always scared, Kim. As many conferences as I've been to, I'm always nervous about sending stuff to a hotel and that it won't get lost somewhere in the hotel. I know that's kind of silly, but I will figure out a way. Okay, I'll tell you what, guys, I don't know how I'm going to manage this. I will bring 5 copies of each book. I will bring 5 copies of each book, and whoever orders them first at the conference, first come, first serve. We'll just do it that way. Am I having the show next week in Vegas? I'm not going to have the Wednesday night show, Glenn, because by then the exhibit hall will be closed. I will be broadcasting throughout the day. So on Tuesday night is the kickoff celebration for the conference. So I'll probably do a cool, hey, bye. Hey, we're there. Cool. Hey. And then Wednesday, I will be broadcasting, I think it's once or twice from the College Park booth. I'm going to be doing some gait training techniques and foundation and balance training techniques. So guys, as soon as I know the exact time, keep your eyes peeled. I'll be posting it. If you're on my email service, which you can do that on, if you go to my Cosi Talks website, you can sign up for my email service and I'll post there what times I'm also going live. If you're on my texting service, I'll post there when I'm going live. So basically, guys, make sure you follow me somewhere, Instagram, Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel, and you'll find out all this information as well. I know, it's kind of crazy. Pam says, thank you, Cosi. I'm out of socket for 6 weeks, except for necessary walking only. Fingers crossed it will be healed on my follow-up at the end of the month. Yes. And Pam, I really hope it heals for you. And again, obviously, and I'm sure you're already doing this, talking to your doctor about medical management with osteoporosis, and just, keeping on top of that. But Pam, don't lose heart. If for whatever reason it leads to having to have a surgical repair, this is something that can be managed, and you can get back to walking after that. Okay, it is possible. Robert says, dibs, one each. I call it first, and that is, or it's like my kids with the last piece of dessert in this house. Mine, right? You gotta. That's how we call dibs with 4 kids. That's how you got to do it around here. Oh, you want to crash my show? Glenn, you come crash my show. I'm going to put you to work on the show. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, Mr. Football Coach. Van Gregory says, well done. You done went and made the commitment to bring them. I know, right? I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. I'm going to, okay. All right. I don't have to bring makeup, right, guys? Y'all won't be scared away. I'll just bring books instead of makeup. No, I'm kidding. I will figure out a way. I will figure out a way, but I'm bringing my sequins. Bringing the sequins. Just saying. Bringing the sequins. Going to light up that room like a disco ball. All right. Let's see. Here's a question. Not going to let this guy off easy. A chap by the name of Bill sent me a question, said, I've been out of my sticks for quite some time. He's a bilateral amputee. I got my new ones, and being the person that I am, I just started wearing them 12 to 14 hours a day. Bill, seriously. Now I have pain behind my knee. Was I too much of a cowboy? Bill. Guys, I'm joking. I know Bill, so I can kind of give him a hard time a little bit. Is there therapy that you would recommend? Yeah. So there's something called physical therapy. No, I'm kidding, Bill. Yes, Bill. Bill. Yeah. You were being too much of a cowboy. 12 to 14 hours? Dude, as my kids would say, dude, that's a long time to wear your legs if you haven't been wearing them for a while. Bill, I know you're going to be at the conference. Guys, Bill at Sleeve Saver is going to be at the Amputee Coalition National Conference. So go see his booth. He's an awesome, awesome dude. Bill, you and I are going to be talking at the conference because we're going to try to figure something out here. We're going to figure something out here. All right, guys, let's see. We got Beth says, send them to the first 5. Then you only have to bring a copy of each. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. That makes sense, Beth. Thank you. Robert says 80s dance party for sure. That many sequins. All right, guys. So as you already know, since I'm going to the conference, cat's out of the bag for who one of my sponsors is this year. It's College Park Industries. They are back. They are my longest running sponsor. They've been with me since practically since day one of the Cosi Talks show for 8 years. They are my longest running sponsor, and I am eternally grateful to their continued support of the show. Their entire team behind the scenes between Eric and Laura and Kristen and Megan, and obviously the amazing individuals that they have helped me bring on the show with Reggie Showers, Zach Gowan, so many wonderful individuals, and their prosthetists, Elisa and John, that have been on the show as well. So I'm excited to continue my partnership with them in 2026, to be hanging out with them at the College Park booth in the AC conference. And guys, keep your eyes peeled. Like I said, you got to go follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, right? And we will be talking about who my next sponsors are in 2026. So we're going to be releasing those little by little throughout the month of January. So keep your eyes peeled. We've got some really exciting people coming up. All right, guys, I am talked out. I am going to go see what Mr. Pickles is up to because he's been way too quiet, and that usually indicates he's in trouble in somewhere. All right. For those of you who are going to Vegas next Wednesday, next week, I truly, truly cannot wait to meet you guys. This is my favorite conference to go to because of that, because I get to finally meet many of you in person and see you again in person. If you are not going to the conference, please continue to check in because I want to give you guys a behind the scenes look and I'll be broadcasting from there. All right, guys, thank you so much for an amazing, wonderful first show of 2026. We started off with a bang, including my crazy set back here. And I will be seeing you guys next week. Same bat channel, different bat.